So,
Mhm.
so chapter 8, taxes. We know there's only two things certain in life, and they are death and taxes. And this chapter is going to go over the exciting part of real estate taxes. Not so exciting, but either way, in this chapter, we're going to describe the differences between the general real estate tax and what's called the special assessment tax, which is an improvement tax, not for improvements that you do to your property, but for improvements the municipality does around the area of your property. Those homeowners that stem to benefit from those improvements in the area of where they live are going to pay for it. Okay, so that's called the special assessment tax. We're going to also explain the taxation process, tax appeals, and all that jazz. So, taxation is the power of state and local governments to impose or levy taxes to fund the operation of government. Tax liens have priority over all other liens. And there's two types of taxes on real estate. They are the general real estate tax, which we call the ad valorem tax in Latin, and the special assessment tax, which is an improvement tax. So we'll highlight there that the annual taxes levied on real estate usually take priority over other previously recorded liens. They jump to the head of the line in the event of foreclosure in the repayment order. Who gets paid first? The property taxes, your municipality. So the general real estate tax is also referred to as the ad valorem tax. In Latin, that means according to value. So that's exactly how your property taxes, they're based on the value of your property in part. The other part is based on the tax rate that this your municipality charges. And the rate is composed of a lot of components from state government to counties to the local municipalities, the park districts and forest preserves and all that stuff. They all contribute to that building of that tax rate. The school districts, that's a big one. A lot of your tax dollars go to a category called education. Okay. Now, does that money get funneled down to the classroom? No, of course not. But anyway, well, I don't want to jump into that too early. And then we have the special assessment or improvement tax. It's not, once again, for improvements that the homeowner does to their property, it's for improvements the municipality does in the area near your property. So you'll reap the benefits of that improvement, is the idea behind that. So, therefore, you're going to pay for it. But you don't got a say in whether you do it or not. I mean, I guess you could if you go down to your town hall meetings when they bring it up for a vote, but most likely they're going to ignore what you have to say anyhow and vote on it anyhow. And if that's the attitudes of your politicians in your town, vote them out. Okay. That's pretty much the only power we got is the power of your vote. And if you're just going to vote them in because they're the political party you align with, well, then that's bad on you. you know, you do have a say through your voice and your vote. All right. Y'all have these highlights taken down there. All right. So the ad valorem is the general tax. It means according to value in Latin. It's based on the value of the property that's being taxed. It funds the operation of governmental agencies, and certain residents may make annual deductions from their property taxes. Certain real estate tax is also totally exempt from taxation. So, what makes up the ad valorem tax? I gave you a rundown just a minute ago, but here we got it in the book. The states, the counties, the municipalities. New Jersey, we got five types of municipalities: cities, towns, townships, boroughs, and villages. The school districts play a big role in that. We're getting your tax money. Um, Local public elementary, high schools, publicly funded junior colleges, community colleges. Hell, in New Jersey, even some Ivy League colleges are getting some of your tax dollars. They have some of the largest funds, billions of dollars, and they still get our taxpayer dollars every year. Can anyone explain that to me? That one got me scratching my head. Why are we giving them money? Hmm. Park districts, forest preserves, and recreational districts, water, sanitary, and drainage districts, they all contribute to that tax rate, which goes into the taxes. It's multiplied by the value of your property, your assessed value of your property, to come up with how much your taxes are going to be. So once again, ad valorem is Latin for according to value, and it's based on the value of your property multiplied by that tax rate. Um, if you feel like you're being overtaxed, I guess you could always appeal that. However, little tip here, you could only appeal the value of the improvement to your property, not the land itself. Because as a general rule, land does not depreciate except in extreme circumstances of contamination or something along those lines. So, education is one of those big categories that take a big chunk of your tax dollars go towards. And we've been throwing more money at education since the 70s. And we've been giving more and more and more to the poorest districts. Has it improved the education in those areas? Not one freaking bit. So why do we keep throwing money at it? Well, because every time politicians come up for reelection, they say we need to give more money to education to fund education. And if you don't, then you're against the kids learning, you bad, bad person. Um, yeah, but in the meantime, we know that it goes to teachers' unions, which then kick back money to the politicians' election funds. So the more money they get, the more money they give, and the more support they get. And, does that money actually funnel down to the classrooms? Not much of it. How many municipalities do we have in New Jersey? Anybody know? We have 21 counties, and how many municipalities?
Is it 564?
It's 564 municipalities we have here in New Jersey.
Ooh.
You know how many school
Hey,
districts
Joe.
we have? Add 100 to that. Yes, we got 100
Wow.
more school districts than we actually have municipalities. Huh. So we actually have schools that are completely empty with not a single student in them. However, those schools need to have to have superintendents and principals and vice principals and secretarial staff, janitorial staff. You drive by some of those schools, all you see in the parking lot are Mercedes Benz and all BMWs and Audis and all these expensive cars, but not a single student in them. Hmm. Interesting. There's actually a documentary called the Cartel movie. I mean, there's a couple of them. There was also Saving Superman or something about Superman. I forget what the hell it was called. There's another documentary about New Jersey and New Jersey school and school districts and the wastes of the taxpayer dollars that go into the schools, um, or
Do
the
we know where those
category of
do we know where
education.
those schools are located?
Which ones?
Like the ones that don't have any students.
Um, you know what? This movie, if you actually watch this cartel movie, they
Uh-huh.
point out a lot of them.
Okay. You said it's
Okay.
called Cartel?
It's called The Cartel.
The
So
Cartel.
here is where you can watch the full movie on Tubi TV. I got the link right here for where you
Yep.
can watch the full movie. Here's a little introductory to it. And hold on one second. Let me back up for a second, see if I can get that link for you. And there we go, the cartel movie. And I'll share it with y'all. There it is. Don't watch it now during class, though. I'll give you a little teaser, though, right here.
It is a crime. It's not terrorists that's going to destroy America. It's urban public education if we don't do something about it.
I don't know where the money's going. The equipment is destroyed. There's graffiti everywhere.
The teacher tells the parent, oh, this is a good school. When I said, lady, your kid can't read or add 2 and 2. What do you mean it's a good school?
Education is a business that has a monopoly. When you have a monopoly, you can do whatever you want.
It is virtually impossible to fire a teacher.
We had a teacher who didn't have good control over his temper and punched kids, slapped kids regularly.
You take a stance and you're going to lose your job. They play dirty because there's so much money involved.
In Newark, for example, we have, I think, well over 400 administrators making more than $100,000 a year. It's wasteful and needs.
This is, keep in mind, this documentary was made about 15, 20 years ago. So we have administrators now that are making over $400,000 a year, which is insane.
Stop.
I used to wonder not why parents weren't protesting, but why aren't parents lighting fires and breaking windows?
It's not about doing something for the kids and having better schools. It's about getting elected.
Corruption is out there, rampant, pervasive, institutionalized.
People should be in jail. You can't lose $1 billion and not be able to explain how you spent that money or where the money went.
Apparently they can.
It's a sad saying, but they've been pimping our children for a very long time.
We've got to think of some other solutions. Throwing money at the problem isn't working. That as an option is coming to an end.
They give respect to these kids, and they show that they care about them.
Kids in failing situations, dangerous situations, we need to give them immediate relief.
Yeah, I have kids who have graduated with diplomas from Camden High and Woodrow Wilson who don't know how to read for 12 years. What did you do with that child? What did you do with the money?
It's just like, you ever seen that movie, Lean on Me?
Yeah.
It's just like that. It's just like that, but before Joe Clark.
Before the baseball bat.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, this documentary, the guy who made this documentary used New Jersey as ground zero for explaining the corruption that goes on in school systems. And he used New Jersey as ground zero for that. And interesting thing is, when he came out with this documentary, he actually offered to give free viewings of it in your local movie theaters if they get a minimum of so many people that come to the showings. And I went to one of these that he had in Menlo Mall, Menlo Park Mall. He actually did it. And then the teachers union actually sent up a bunch of their operatives over there to try to disrupt the viewing. And then afterwards, he had a question and answer segment where he would answer people's questions. And the people from the teacher union, they just kept shouting over him when he was trying to answer people's questions. And he said, see, this is what you got to contend with. This is what you got to deal with. They're sending these people here because they don't want you to hear what's going on. They don't want you to hear the message. If you people who are shouting got a question for me, ask me and I'll answer it. Why are you just screaming? Let's have a conversation, you know? And it was the most interesting. It was the most interesting thing. So real like that that's the way that they acted. It's true. This is what they do. They shout it down. They waste it because they just want those taxpayer money of yours. And teachers unions is different than the teachers. Okay, separate those two. Okay, teacher unions can care less about kids or education, even though around election time you're seeing commercials on TV like crazy. Right, during the election time that we just had, there was so many commercials on TV about the teachers union and how much they care about children. And if you care about children, you'll support your local teachers unions and all that. It's all BS, you know. It's always only around election time that they do that. So anyway, there was the link there. You guys can watch it for yourselves. But our taxpayer dollars go to a lot of wasteful spending. Take a look at this Green Space Expansion and Preservation Program. This is something that was put on the ballots for you to vote on. You know, those side public option questions when you go to vote for president or the primaries or whatever. You know, they always have those public option questions on the side. I suggest to you that if you're not 100% certain what those public option questions are about, always vote against them. Here's an example, a perfect example of that: the Green Space Expansion and Preservation Program, a new tax to preserve parkland and open space, buying land or rights to others' land to prevent further development. This is how it was sold to the taxpayers on the ballots as those public option questions several years back, so that they could create the new tax. Politicians could have created this tax on their own. Instead, they put it on the ballot for you, and they just put up there this thing that it's in place to create a new tax of 1%, and this money will go towards preserving open space and creating more and improving the parklands and forest districts in New Jersey. Oh, sounds like a great idea. They also didn't tell you that they could raise. It also gives the politician to raise the tax in the future if they ever want to raise more without having to come back to you for approval on it. And the money could go to buying the rights from somebody who owns property so that they don't build any more on it. So basically, they could go to their rich politician friends and say, hey, are you done building and constructing all of your buildings that you're going to build on your ginormous property that you have? You are? Okay, then we're going to throw a boatload of money at you if you sign a piece of paper that says that you agree not to build any more buildings on it. It's like payoffs, And look, even in my town, the cities were cashing in. The politicians, the crooked politicians. My town, the mayor signed off on this years ago. There's an area of grass, an open space next to our Votech school, or next to the high school, and they got money for this green space expansion program, agreeing not to develop on it. And guess what? Now, a couple of years later, they need to enlarge the school, so they need that space. So they're going to violate the rules, and so they're going to need to pay the money or pay some money back in fines and such in order to be able to build on it again. But they don't care. Where are they getting the money from to pay those fines for violating the rules for the money that they already collected and blew somewhere else? They're getting them from the taxpayer. They'll just raise your taxes to pay for it. So in some cases, there's beautiful parks that were made or improved. In other cases, it's land that looks like what you're going to see on the coming photos. I'm going to show you a couple pictures. And in some even municipalities, not to build further on their property. They're basically purchasing their rights to make further improvements on their land. But usually it's already built up to its max, so it's usually just a payoff. Here's an example of it in Edison. The Edison Preserved Open Space. They even got their sign there. The Edison Preserved Open Space area. You see how it's all grown over, even blocking the lights partially. This is on the corner of Inman Ave and Featherbed Lane where I took this picture. All right, so that's what it looks like in the spring and summer. What about the fall? So beautiful. This preserved open space. Probably somebody just didn't want to build a house right there at the light intersection where it T-bones, or they couldn't get a permit to, so they decided they were going to sell their rights to not build on it. And now you just got this big open lot with overgrown trees, fallen trees, and garbage in there. What are they preserving? That's not a park. Didn't do nothing with it. Here's another example. You could see some of the garbage in there. This is that location. Beautiful. Our taxpayer dollars hard at work right here.
So who would this be sold to?
Nobody. You're just not going to build up on it.
If you sell your rights.
You just sold away your rights to build on it. So look at that.
But to who?
The state. To the Green Space Expansion Preservation Program gave you money just not to agree not to build on there, to preserve open space and parkland. That's the promise that was sold to you, but in return, this is what you get.
Would that be similar to farmland preservation? Selling it for farmland preservation?
No, farmland is a little bit different. Farmland, you have to actively use it as farmland. We're going to go over that in the coming slides too, where you actually get a 98% reduction in property taxes if it's farmland. But there are a lot of fake farmers out there too, so we'll get into that. So here, there's the tax benefits and exemptions from the general real estate tax. It's available for seniors who are 65 years and older. Wait a minute. Haven't I been teaching you over and over that to be considered a senior, it's 62 and over? Why is it suddenly 65? Did anybody catch that age fluctuation suddenly here? Yeah, because when it comes to not paying money to the government, all of a sudden your age in order to be considered a senior goes up. You know, if it's a benefit that takes money out of the government's pocket, you know, but you could otherwise you're considered a senior if it's nothing out of their pocket. You're a senior at 62, right? So seniors 65 or older who meet income requirements for and it's their primary residence may make annual deductions of up to $250 on their taxes. So generous, $250. And veterans, honorably discharged veterans and their surviving unmarried spouses when their veteran spouse had been killed, for real and personal property taxes may take a deduction of $250 as well. So generous. Now, disabled veterans and non-veterans who are disabled could get a total 100% tax exemption on their real estate taxes if they meet the requirements of disability. There's also a senior freeze program that's available for seniors. They call it now the PTR program. They rebranded it. It stands for Property Tax Relief. Certain residents may make annual deductions from any increase in property taxes. For seniors who are 65 years of age or older, and certain disabled persons for their primary residence, not any investment properties or vacation properties they have, and they must have lived in the home for at least 3 years. If they meet the income requirements, which currently that income requirement has been jacked up a lot, it's $168,268. If the senior makes less than that per year, well, then they qualify for the senior freeze program. The senior may qualify for the freeze from any increase in taxes. So say that the senior froze their taxes at $8,000 a year, and now taxes are $9,500 a year. The senior still has to pay the higher tax, not the current $9,500 a year taxes, but they get a rebate for that $1,500 difference from where they froze them at to what they currently are at, which could be a huge savings. So basically the senior pays them, and then they get that money back at the end of the year. See, we just had an election for governor, and if you saw that some of the arguments that were made between the two candidates, you had the Jack Ciattarelli. He was making an argument that this is all a scam. If you really want to give discounts to the seniors and give them a real tangible benefit, why are we taking the money from them just to give them some of it back later? Why don't you just cut the taxes or eliminate them altogether for the seniors? Why are we playing this game where we're charging them the higher taxes? They gotta get them frozen, then we gotta charge them a higher amount, they gotta pay it, and then later on we're gonna give some of it back to them. You know, that's not really a benefit. It's a game we're playing with them. Now, the senior may qualify for a freeze from any increase in their taxes. Okay, so they still have to pay the higher taxes, but they get a rebate for the difference in between. I mean, I liked his idea, which was, you know, once you're a senior in New Jersey and it's your primary residence, you pay zero property taxes. That sounded pretty good to me. right? I mean, especially the highest tax state in the United States is New Jersey. You guys know that? So the seniors' taxes would be frozen, and if taxes go up after that, they would have to pay a higher taxes, and they'd get a rebate check at the end of the year for the difference if the state has the money in their coffers and they didn't overspend like they usually do. But if they don't have the money in there because of the budget, then the senior will just get a credit for that amount towards next year's taxes. So they pay that much less in taxes next year. So the senior will get it one way or another, but it's a little game they're playing instead of just not requiring the senior to pay it out. So they take the money and then they give it back later. Now, New Jersey Treasury, senior freeze, anchor rebates, stay in New Jersey program is another one of these scams for seniors. The Stay New Jersey program was supposed to be that it would eliminate the property taxes for seniors in New Jersey. And then when they really stewed upon it and then they voted on it and passed it in New Jersey, it actually was, well, they could get a rebate of half of the taxes. A rebate, once again, it doesn't eliminate the tax. They still need to pay it, and then they get a rebate for up to half of their property taxes that they pay. Up to, with a limitation of a top dollar amount of your taxes being like $12,500. So the senior can get a rebate of only half of that, which is like $6,500. So their politicians are still playing games by using this crafty wording. And then they come in, they act like they're your hero. So there you go. You could thank Ratface Murphy for that. I hate that guy. In case you haven't guessed. Let me see.
I was just about to say we couldn't tell.
You know, the senior freeze program, hey, everybody got an opinion. You know what it's good for, you know. Take it with a grain of salt. You know, the senior freeze program details you could get here. I have all the links for that. So if you have a senior in your family, maybe it's your parent or your aunts, uncles, or grandparents or what have you, or I don't think anybody here in this class is that old. You could apply for that senior freeze program if their income is under this amount. So you could help save them money on their taxes. Okay, you let them get that rebate. Because there's a lot of seniors, believe it or not, that actually are totally unaware of this. These programs and how they work. I remember my dad was. I figured that, hey, somebody from the senior community down City Hall would reach out to him, or maybe his accountant or somebody. Nope, nobody ever did. And by the time I told him about the senior freeze program, he was 78. You know, he died at 81, but he was 78 when I told him about it, and he applied for this senior freeze program, and nobody ever told him. He qualified for it at 65. And I did some back research that if he applied for it when he was available to him at age 65, he could have frozen the property taxes at $3,000 a year. Today, our property taxes are $9,700 a year. So, but he managed to get them frozen then, you know. Now, I went down to City Hall to get that booklet to sign him up for it, but they tried giving me the runaround like there was no such program there. And I'm the one, I teach this stuff. I know there's this program, you know. So I asked to speak to the lady supervisor. She's like, I am the supervisor. And I was like, yeah, okay. Well, there is a program like this, you know. And so she ended up trying to think about it. She asked the two girls that were working in the background, "Do you guys ever hear of a senior freeze program?" And they were like looking at each other, but didn't say a word. She's their boss, right? And then she's like, senior freeze, senior freeze. Oh, you must be talking about the PTR program, the property tax relief program. I was like, didn't I just explain to you what this program does? And I called it the senior freeze. Now you're just playing with me. You knew that program was available, but it's got a different name on the cover of the book now called the PTR, but it still says senior freeze under it. I was like, B, you knew what I was talking about. This is why these people are behind bulletproof glass down at City Hall. They're supposed to be working for us as our representatives, but yet they're playing games like this. You guys don't need to deal with that anymore, is the bottom line. I got the links for you right here where you could forward these links or print the forms out for your seniors in your family or people that you know so that they could take advantage of these programs. There's also that proposal for the senior for the tax cut in New Jersey. It's called Stay in NJ. Well, now it's no longer a proposal. They passed it. So it's a new law went into effect November 1st, 2024. The law revises the Stay in New Jersey Act that statutes surrounding the implication. So it went into effect November 1st, 2024, but nobody could actually file for it until this year. So this year, seniors are applying for this Stay New Jersey tax credit program. And now they can apply for all their senior freeze, the anchor benefits, and Stay in New Jersey all at one time online. And what are the rules pertaining to this? Well, senior citizens having an annual gross income under $500,000 a year, $500,000 a year, and annual property tax benefits, which for homeowners shall be the amount of 50% of the property tax bill on their principal residence, beginning with the tax year 2026, which commences January 1st of that year. Okay, so seniors applied this year and they'll start getting their benefit in January. Now, it looks like they keep editing this page here because let me see if we could get the website under property tax relief, because even though it says under 500,000 and they could reduce their taxes by 50%, they can't reduce them by 50%. It's like 50% up to $12,500, which comes out to like 6,000 and change.
Victor, if you click the link, we can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So yeah, we were at the Stay in New Jersey property tax benefit program here. All right, and then I was just reading all this stuff to you before. Actually, let's click on it, see if we could actually read what it says. Oh no, I'm not reading the whole law. Okay, that's not going to happen. They on this page they had more details in here, but they pulled out those details because it says up to 50% of their property tax bill, but up to a certain amount. And now they kind of deleted that and it just says 50% here, but it is only up to a certain amount. I think I have it on another slide, but they have benefits and stuff. I'm not going to start clicking through all these documents to try to track it down and figure it out. I already had it where I got the information from this website. All right, and you can see the New Jersey Treasury page. If you were to click on this link, that takes us here, and it shows all the different benefit programs that are maybe available for property tax scam information, timeline of benefits. So we got the Stay in New Jersey, the senior freeze, and the anchor benefits. Payment schedules, filing information, the deadlines, October 31st, 2025. So that's already passed. They didn't file for it, but maybe they could file for it next year. So we have the Stay New Jersey Property Tax Credit Program, the Senior Freeze Property Tax Reimbursement Program, and an anchor benefit. Property tax credits, deductions, exemptions, and abatements for like new construction and such. There we go. There's a $250 senior freeze benefit for seniors and disabled people, for veterans and their surviving unmarried spouses, 100% disability for veteran property tax and non-veterans. active military service property tax deferment program. Yeah, used to be that in New Jersey, if you're a military member, you're serving overseas, you could get foreclosed on for not getting your paying your property taxes because you're fighting somewhere on a battlefield, you know. So that was happening so much. We got them to finally pass a law in New Jersey that they could defer the tax payment if they were serving overseas, and then when they come back, then they could pay it and deal with that. You know, it's not like they got computers out in the middle of the desert that they could be taking care of their property tax bills and stuff, you know, wherever it is they're fighting or serving their country. So there's also different kinds of other tax benefit programs for, you know, starting businesses in urban enterprise zones or renewable energy tax credits and all kinds of other historic properties, 5-year abatements for new construction in rundown areas, you know, things of that nature. They used to have a flyer where it listed all the different benefits for people, for seniors. This one is not, because this one's not talking about the farmland. It's not talking about the farmland's not in there. I think there's some other ones that wasn't referring to as well. Let's see about property tax credits. No, that's just for homeowners and renters, the anchor benefit. All right, so let's go back to the slide. So we got the senior, here's that link to all those benefits on the Treasury's website, the Senior Freeze booklet, the Senior Freeze program, the Senior Freeze booklet, so you don't got to go down to city halls. The link about Stay in New Jersey program, the brochure of tax breaks that used to have all of the tax breaks on them, now just shows that $250 credit for seniors. All right. And then the last link is just for tax rates in each municipality, which when you go to that page, it's kind of hidden too. They hide a lot of this information for some reason. So here, I could share these brochures and benefits with you guys. They are in the class links Word document, but here they are as well. So let's highlight about the Senior Freeze and this $250 for seniors and disabled people and veterans. You know, renters qualify for rebates as well. It's estimated that about 18% of their rent the landlord uses to pay property taxes. So renters can actually deduct up to 18% of the rent that they pay throughout the year on their taxes.
All set, thanks.
Okie dokie.
Good to go.
Good to go.
All right. I'm also sending a message to somebody. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's what a municipal tax map looks like in your municipalities. We have tax maps. We have districting maps. This is what a tax map looks like, where it's similar to the plat maps in subdivisions. Your city is basically made up of a bunch of developments that builders make. over the years, and they just add those maps to their overall collection of maps that comprise of the city. You have a block that you live on, and the house that you're in is on a lot. So tax maps consist of block and lot numbers. So the block number is usually in a bold box or circle like this, 335, 336. And then there will be consecutively numbered lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It goes all the way around. There's 35 lots on this block. So 35 houses on this block. You know, on this one, it's goes around and it's 24. Then each one is, you know, got its dimensions listed around. But that's a lot and block number. Farmland, let's now start talking about the Farmland Reassessment Act. You could get favorable tax treatment and a 98% reduction in your property taxes if you are operating a farm. And farmers do need it. They are the backbone of America. And the markup on farming at the farming level is not that great. So they need these. Otherwise, it's impossible to run a farm if they were paying the same tax rates as you do for your single family or multifamily houses. It'd just be way too much money for all that land to pay those tax rates. So in order to qualify for this favorable tax treatment, the farm has to be at least 5 acres in size, exclusive to the home site where your house that the farmer is living in is on. And then it must earn at least $500 a year in gross sales for that first 5 acres. Any additional acreage, it's $5 per acre. Does anybody see a problem with that? What kind of legitimate farm is only grossing $500 a year for 5 acres of land in sales? This is a loophole our politicians put in there into the law. They baked it in. But you know what?
I also think, Victor, that I think it really depends, right? Because if you have and the reason I say that is because I was looking at buying farmland, right? Because I want to do the same thing. I want to get a farm, you know, have some chickens, right? Because of course I'm going to benefit from the tax breaks, right? But if you only have chickens on that farm, right? How much money are you really going to generate from just getting eggs, from selling eggs, right?
I don't know. How much are you going to charge for them?
Well, you can't just charge whatever you want if the person across the street is selling eggs too.
Well, do you think a lot of these rich people and celebrities that claim that their mansions are farms, that they're farmers for a living, they pay next to nothing on their property taxes? Do you think any of them are actually standing there by the roadside stand selling eggs or whatever it is? You know John Bon Jovi, right?
Yeah.
You know, he do you know that he has his New Jersey estate called the High Point Estate? It has its own name. You know, he gets a 98% reduction in his property taxes because he claims he's a farmer that raises honeybees. So because he sells some honey, a couple jars of honey every year to his relatives or friends, you know, he pays next to nothing in his property taxes. Mm-hmm. And you know Bruce Springsteen, mm-hmm. You know, he likes to ride his horses on his Colts Neck property, very rich area, and because he also hires a farmer, a part-time farmer, to farm a couple of organic tomatoes on the far side of the property. So he pays next to nothing on that additional 200 acres of land that he has, that he trots his horses on, and he's got a part-time farmer on it. Yeah. Okay. Now, these two guys, they're ones out there, they're like, you got to pay your fair share in taxes, everybody, and the farmer deserves a big tax break. As a matter of fact, beyond a tax break, the government should be giving the farmers some money to help them run their farms, to help reduce their costs. You know, in the meantime, they don't tell you that they're using the loophole, pretending that they're farmers so that they pay next to nothing on their property taxes. So you got these rich people, celebrities, doctors, attorneys, politicians and from both sides of the aisle, they do this crap. Our former governor Christine Todd Whitman, one of the worst governors we've ever had in New Jersey. I guess she's up there with Murphy, but she claimed that she cuts down trees and sells firewood. I don't know if you guys remember what she looks like. She's this waif-looking woman, super thin. You think she's out there with chainsaws cutting down trees and chopping wood and selling firewood out there on her 2 estates, 2 mansions that she owns? She got them. She pays only 2% in the property taxes of what she should be paying, because she claims that it's farmland. She's cutting down, selling wood. All right. There's different types of agricultural property. You could have animals on it, but not necessarily. You have woodlands and wetlands for farmland. Okay. So this $500 per year is what it used to be for any farm. But then they found out the whole scam came out about Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen and other celebrities like that they just use it as a loophole to pay next to nothing in their property taxes. So the politicians stepped in, they said, we got this covered, we'll fix this problem. And they sure did. They doubled the required income to be claiming it as farmland to $1,000 in gross sales per year. That's still a scam. What kind of legitimate farm is only grossing $1,000 a year in sales, right? So that's $1,000 per year. But remember, for exams, to get exam questions right, you always go to the exception rather than the rule. So there's still a $500 per year in gross sales, but that applies to woodlands and wetlands. $1,000 is for the non-woodlands or wetlands. But so this is the only one we need to know for exam. It has to earn at least $500 a year in gross sales for the first 5 acres and $5 for each additional acre. And it must be actively used for farmland at least 2 years immediately prior to the year which you file for that preferential tax treatment. But there was another story. Did you guys hear about that one in 2019 where the head of New Jersey Transit, the guy makes almost $300,000 a year. He's the head of New Jersey Transit. Do you know that he has his property in Mendham registered as farmland because he owns 2 sheep? So he gets a 98% reduction in his property taxes. Yeah, I could see the head of New Jersey Transit out there shearing the wool off of his 2 sheep to get by, and what a struggle. Yeah, farmland, my ass. It's a loophole, right? So most properties used for religious, charitable, and other non-for-profit purposes are totally exempt from property taxes. Okay. Now, to qualify for the exemption, a homeowner must file an application with the local tax assessor by December 1 of each year, stating that the property was a principal residence as of the previous October 1. And you, as the real estate agent, this note down at the bottom applies to you guys. The real estate broker must be alert for the possibility of such exemptions so that when the property is offered for sale to the public, potential buyers will know what the true tax figure is, because they may not be farmers. So the amount a new owner will have to pay will be considerably higher than what the reduced amount that this fake farmers may be paying, So we have to be aware of what true tax figures are. Or if the person is a veteran and they're getting a discount, or they're disabled, they're getting a discount, they're seniors, they're getting a discount. When we put that property on sale, we don't just ask, how much are you paying for your property taxes? We got to know what the true tax figure is that we advertise, because the next buyer who's buying that property may not qualify for that exemption, and therefore they're going to have to pay that higher tax figure, the true tax figure on the property, rather than some discounted rate. Make sense? So that's what we got to know about. So these are the three things that you need to know. In order to be considered farmland and qualify for that special treatment, well, you got to have 5 acres, not counting the site that the house is sitting on. So if you don't count the land the house is sitting on, you have to have additional 5 acres to be considered genuine farmland. Okay. And then you have to gross $500 a year in sales for that first 5 acres. And it must be used as farmland for at least 2 years before the filing of the preferential treatment as the farmland. Now, a lot of builders use this. They buy up tons of farmland and then they just sit on it as it's registered as farmland. So they pay practically nothing on taxes as they hold on to it as farmland until they're ready to develop on it. And then they have to pay a 2-year rollback tax of what the taxes should have been for the last 2 years when they actually use it.
Victor, if you wanted to, I mean, I know, and this is probably maybe not necessarily the class for this, but for specifically for farmland benefits, right? If the person wants to, you know, if they tell us like, hey, look, I want to buy the farmland, right? But I don't want to, because you can't build on it technically, right? As you have it, unless you convert it back to residential.
Yeah, you got to get, you can convert it into buildable land. That's what I said a lot of builders do.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if like the same of, you know, mom and pop, right? Decide they want to buy it and they just want to, you know, maybe put a couple cabins or something on this land. Are they able to do that? Or are they not able to do it until they convert it into residential, even if you're not selling?
Oh, what do you mean? Keep it as farmland, but build a couple of houses on it?
Yeah, like if you put some
need to know more info. Need more info for that one. You'd have to check with also zoning laws and all that. Remember, you have to have at least 5 acres still that's still just used as farmland.
Yeah. And then for the are we going to get into the charitable stuff? Because I had a question about that too, like the properties. If you use, well, let's continue this. If we're going to go into that, I don't want to jump.
Yeah. We're going to go into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to talk about charities in general. And we'll get into it a little bit more. Yeah, just hang tight. Okay, so here are those stories that I told you about. 2019, the head of the New Jersey Transit that makes $280,000 a year only paid $19.42 in property taxes for his home in Mendham because he had it registered as farmland because he owns 2 sheep. If that don't piss you off, I don't know what does. This guy pays less than a $20 bill for his property taxes, while you and your parents are paying how much in property taxes? And they keep raising them all the time and keep yelling at you. You got to pay your fair share and contribute to society. Mother suckers. Right? So look at this guy. Whereas his neighbors are paying closer to $20,000 a year in property taxes. He pays less than a $20 bill because he owns 2 sheep. You think the head of New Jersey Transit is actually shearing that wool and selling it off? No, he probably just got the 2 sheep as props, you know? Claims, he writes off, yeah, I sold this much, so he pays taxes on whatever much he sold in wool for income, and then he pays next to nothing on his property taxes. Former Governor Christine Todd Whitman, she on her 2 estates, she claims that she chops down firewood. She's a Republican. And then you got Democrat here, Ellen Karcher, defeated Beck in 2007, saved tens of thousands of dollars on her property in Marlboro because she claims she sells a half dozen Christmas trees a year. And then, you got Bruce Springsteen on his house, his residential house where his house sits. He pays $138,000 a year in property taxes for his 3-acre home site. However, he owns an adjoining 200 acres of land that he only pays $4,600 a year on with that 98% tax deduction. Because He hires a part-time farmer to grow a few organic tomatoes, and he rides all of his horses there. And then you got that rocker and political activist, John Bon Jovi. He's got that Navesink River Road mansion called High Point Estate worth $20 million. He only paid $104 on property taxes for 7.1 acres of the 15-acre estate that he claimed as farmland because he raises honeybees. So you got this group here, the Jeff Tittle, the director of the Sierra Club. They're like an environmentalist group. No, not conservative at all. So this is not like a conservative Democrat thing. You know, this is Jeff Tittle, the director of the Sierra Club. He's New Jersey chapter, called them the politicians addressing the issue and raising it to $1,000 of gross income that they needed to earn. He called that sham reform. Just like you guys could see, obviously, hey, that's BS. What legitimate farm is only grossing $1,000 a year in sales? Can't even pay your sewer bill, let alone for machinery or gas or fuel or seed and feed and all that other stuff, you know, or an employee who's living off $1,000 a year in gross sales, right? So it says we could do a lot more for our legitimate farmers if we weren't giving so many benefits away to our fake farmers. And he's right with that statement. However, the rest I don't agree with a little bit. He says he spoke to the part-time farmers that pleaded to keep the minimum to $1,000. And after reviewing an old study completed by 2008 by the Rutgers University Agricultural Experiment Station, they found that if they were to raise the minimum to $10,000 in gross income in order to claim that preferential treatment as farmland, that they would lose 39.3% of farmland in New Jersey. So there you go. They gave us an exact number. 39.3% of the farms in New Jersey are fake farmers taking advantage of a loophole. It's another way to look at it, right?
This is looking at the exemption.
Yeah, the 98% tax write-off of considering it to be a farm, you know, and that's only if the income was raised to $10,000 a year. But seriously, what real farm is only earning $10,000 a year in gross sales as well? That's a ridiculous number. I think it should be more along the lines of $1 million. Any legitimate farm should be grossing in sales at least $1 million a year. That's like before expenses, you know, after expenses and salaries and all that stuff, you know, having $1 million, that's more of a legitimate thing. You know what? If I was a politician that had control over this, I would say you need to gross $1 million a year to qualify for the favorable treatment as a farmland to get that tax break. And any legitimate farm that's grossing under $1 million a year, you could fill out a one-page application that's punishable by prison term and huge fines if you lie on this, about why you should be considered a genuine agricultural property or considered farmland to get this favorable tax treatment.
All right, so as you said that, I looked up what is the average farm in New Jersey gross per year, and they only gross $148,000.
That's BS.
It says 100 when that was in 2022. It says 100. We'll round up 149,000. It says most farms are small scale. An estimated 44% report less than 2,500, which we know is the fake farms, right?
Yeah.
Only 12% of the farms had sales of $100,000 or more. So in total, it says it's approximately 1.5 billion in annual revenue.
Yeah, I don't know about that. You could go to so many. You could go to so many rural areas where you see these large farms where they're selling crops of corn and all that.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that they're only earning $100,000 in gross sales a year from selling corn for all that land that they own. You know, it's got to be more than that. And look, even the ones that are just doing pony rides for kids, you know, okay, you could be making less, but you could fill out that one-page document that explains why you should be considered a genuine farmland under penalty of perjury and prison term, to try to deter some of these fake farmers who are just taking advantage of the loopholes that the politicians intentionally wrote into the law here. Look, we have so many farms here that sell. Do you know some of our major crops in New Jersey? What are some of our major crops in New Jersey? Anybody know? What are some of the major crops we sell here in New Jersey? We grow here.
I don't know.
Now you think this one would? What's that?
Honey.
Honey. Yeah. Bon Jovi and his honey farm. Okay. Well, even though I would associate this to Georgia, not New Jersey, but peaches.
Really?
We got big peach farms. Peaches is one of our major crops here. And how about this one? Ocean Spray was based in New Jersey. Cranberries, blueberries, and blackberries, all from New Jersey. Corn. How many fields of corn have you seen all over the place in New Jersey? If you ever drove out to the farmland, I like to ride motorcycles, and we go on a lot of these rides through the country roads and stuff, for these beautiful, calm scenic rides, and we see a lot of the farmland we drive through. And that's a lot of the crops that you see. I actually have a list that's coming up in one of the coming chapters about a lot of interesting stuff in New Jersey, little factoids like this about our farmlands and such. But this is interesting about the fake farmers. So there you go. Now, does this apply to poor people? No, because how many poor people can afford to purchase acres and acres and acres of land in the most expensive state of New Jersey? So, but if you own at least 5 acres, I got a friend that bought land that he had at least 5 acres plus his home site in Old Bridge, and then he actually put up a couple of those honeybee stands at the far edges of the property, and he gets the 98% reduction on his property taxes. But he's not out there making honey and doing all that BS. I think it was a hobby that his mother had, and he moved his mother into his house, that they built over there.
But it'll work.
He's actually a fireman in Elizabeth, All right, so here we go. Tax benefits available. Let's see. So who qualifies for favorable tax treatment in New Jersey? Well, we know senior citizens and veterans and their surviving unmarried spouses get that $250 deduction from the income tax. Then we have farmers. They get that 98% reduction in property taxes. Now, 100% total exemption from property taxes is available for religious organizations. All right, Pastor Jonathan.
No, there's not Pastor.
Yeah, okay.
I guess the question was, so I went to Ducret, right, which is an art school in Plainfield. And it's pretty much a house, right? I know they do some nonprofit stuff as well. So I guess the question was more if you have, let's just say if that home that they have there it is a pay for, and they also do nonprofit on there. Is that something that because it's a home and they're doing nonprofit out of the home, it can still be exempt, or does it have to be like a church, standalone church somewhere that is, it can't be like, oh, I'm having church service in my basement?
Well, you have to have zoning for it, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, correct.
It has to be zoned and permitted. So, for example, the religious organizations, they get 100% total exemption from property taxes. When I started working in real estate, I started working in the Oranges. I started working in West Orange, and my dad was actually a priest. growing up. My dad was a priest. We're Polish Catholic. The priests are allowed and encouraged to get married and have families and such, because how are you supposed to give advice to people on relationships if you are never in one yourself? That's the way that our sect of the Catholic religion works. So my dad was a priest, but also priests don't make a lot of money, so he was also a roofer. Go figure, contractor and a priest. So so I'm familiar with religions and the churches and all that stuff. So when I was working in West Orange, you guys will be lucky if one time in your entire careers you're going to have somebody coming to you looking for a property to buy to make a house of worship. In 1 month that I was there, I had over 30 people come to me looking for properties where they could build a church or where they could have their house of worship with their rectory and all. And they all came rattling off the same stuff with specific things. It doesn't need to be necessarily a standalone building with a rectory. It could be like a 2-family house, or there's a storefront on the bottom and an apartment above. That could be the rectory, and the storefront would be where we have the services, and and they all came in, they rattled like the same exact directions to me. And I'm just sitting back, and I know there's some bullshit going on here. There's some, I'm like, so I eventually asked one of them, I was like, you're like the 30th person that came to me this month. You'd be lucky if anybody gets one person in their entire career that comes looking for a place to build a house of worship. You're like the 30th person this month alone that came to me. And I'm only one agent. What do you guys all go to some kind of seminar or something on how to avoid paying your property taxes? And the guy was like, oh no, we got it registered. We got it registered with the federal government. We got a tax ID number. We have to just have a congregation of at least so many people that meet on a regular basis, at least so many times a month, in order to be considered a religious organization. Like he's like rattling off the rules to me, instead of saying, "No, my child, we're having," instead he was like rattling off the official rules of what the IRS considers a religious organization. And I was
in other words, he was guilty.
Yeah. Well, he eventually told me, he was like, yeah, we did. There was a seminar with a lot of people. They were showing you how to avoid property taxes. You could just, and who's to say you're not a minister? As long as you got a following of so many people that meet on a regular basis, at least so many times per month, and that's your congregation. Okay. Look at some of the religions that are out there. Look at the one, Scientology, that all these celebrities follow now. You guys know what that religion is based on? It's based on a book published from L. Ron Hubbard in the 70s. This was a guy who took way too much acid in his time. No, seriously, he was tripping on acid when he wrote that book, and it was about, it was called Dianetics. I don't know if you maybe seen the commercials on TV as a kid. I remember seeing them about this book. It was about self-improvement, but he turned it into a religion over the years and had all these people now following him. Now, of course, the religion, any of the followers have to donate to the church, the cause, 10% of all their income, of course, and it's interesting how they work that. But what is the religion based on for their Scientology? It's actually they believe in their God, which is an alien, which is going to come back to Earth to take us back to their planet. I forget what their alien was called. He's got a name. It's basically based on aliens coming back to get us and bring us back to a different world or something. But in the meantime, us alien supporters need to stick with each other.
It's a spin-off of Christianity. Jesus coming back to take you back into heaven in the rapture.
Well, no, this is. Yeah, I guess it's a spin-off in that way. Yeah, it's a goof spin-off of that. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of I mean, look at Big Al Sharpton.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that guy's not a legitimate priest. Well, who could say legitimate? As long as he has at least what 5 followers or 10 followers or whatever it is that meet regularly. He's Big Al, Reverend Al Sharpton. You know, always there to make a buck. You know, so anyway, the religious organizations, yeah, with the storefront and an apartment upstairs, that kind of scenario could work out for them. So could you do that with a school, have a school downstairs? But the thing is, schools don't get charitable breaks. That's
well, I'm
actually
talking about like a nonprofit specifically. If you did like a nonprofit downstairs and then you had like upstairs.
Correct. Here, religious organizations, charities, nonprofits. Not all charities are completely nonprofit, so that's why they're 2 separate categories.
Yep.
Disabled non-veterans or disabled veterans and their surviving unmarried spouses. They could get those 100% total exemption for property taxes.
So disabled non-veterans are just someone that has a disability?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So, who qualifies for favorable tax treatment in New Jersey? You'll need to know, because you get a question on exam that says which one of these does or does not qualify for favorable tax treatment in New Jersey. And you got those senior citizens, the veterans, the disabled people, the farmland, religious, charitable, nonprofits, and obviously schools are not on that list. So yeah, I mean, my school gets taxed, you know, so schools are not on that list. All right, so let's get into special assessments. Property owners must pay for improvements that the municipality makes that benefit the real estate that they own near those improvements. They call that a special assessment tax. It's not for improvements that you do to the property. So highlight this sentence and right here, improvements by the municipality, not the homeowner. Because a lot of people get that mixed up. If the homeowner does improvements to their house, that increases their value, and thus the ad valorem tax kicks in, right? According to value of the home. This is improvements that the municipality does, not for improvements that the homeowner does. You need to understand that for an exam question. So write this little note up here, highlight this sentence, and then put a box around the bottom part, which is information that you need to know for the actual works on the job rather than the an exam question. We actually need to let people, when we advertise properties for sale, we got to advertise the actual taxes on the property, not any discounted rate that the current owner may be paying.
Got it.
Sorry, I was just reading a text between my brother and my sister. They were asking, does anybody know what mom wants for Christmas? And my brother was like, she told me world peace. Man. What do you give to a woman that's got everything, right? All right, so once again, special assessment tax. This is a tax that you pay to the municipality for improvements the municipality does. Let's see. Condominium complexes can charge special assessments as well to each unit owner if they want to do some improvements like repave the walkways, put in new storm doors and windows on the condos, or replace the roofs and such. In order to finance all of these repairs and major changes and undertaking that they're going to do, they could give a special assessment tax to all the unit owners in the entire complex. You don't have a say in it. Well, I guess you would if you attended the meetings and the HOA meetings. You could talk about it there. But the improvement may be financed over many years. You could either pay it all at once or over a period of years. So it may be a financial burden on new owners if the seller didn't pay it off yet and they didn't tell them about it. So our new contracts have a section specifically about municipal assessments. And the seller is to deliver the property free from liens and encumbrances, including special assessment taxes. So here is one from section 10 of our, you see section 10 of our contract. This is a screenshot from our sales contracts that the seller represents that it has or has not been notified of any special assessments as explained in this section. Title shall be free and clear of all assessments for municipal improvements, including but not limited to municipal liens, as well as assessments for liabilities for future assessments for improvements, constructed and completed. All confirmed assessments, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to sit there reading the whole thing, but you guys get the idea.
How much time do you normally have to pay off like special assessment fees?
It could be financed. It could be financed over years and years, depending on how much it is.
Is it negotiable? Like how much time you want?
Yeah, within your budget.
As a homeowner?
Yeah. Yes, within your budget. Yes, it can be negotiated. How much you pay over time.
And who would you negotiate with? The municipality?
Yes, or the condominium complex, whoever's you're paying it to.
Huh. And is that by individual, or would everyone have to have the same?
Well, different people some people may want to pay it all at once to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Some can't afford to, so they need to finance that payment over a couple of payments or many payments over a period of years even. So when you're selling, it's important for us as real estate agents to find out if there's any unpaid special assessments on the property.
That's great information.
Okay. Okay, so assessed value. Okay. You guys heard of market value, right? Real estate agents and appraisers, they help people determine market value of their property based on current sales, recent sales of similar nearby properties. However, assessed value is a value that's used by the tax man, all right, to determine how much you're paying in property taxes. They got to apply a value to your home. It's called an assessed value, which is different from market value. There's actually a formula that you could use to try to re-engineer the assessed value from the tax man to determine what the actual market value is that they're saying your home is worth. How come they don't just tell us outright what the market value is that they think our home is worth? I don't know. It's a big game. I don't know. Maybe they don't want you to know because a lot less people will try to appeal it.
It's the same way that we have to file taxes at the end of the year. They know how much we owe. They know.
Mm-hmm. And then they give you these opportunities for little write-offs here and there and all that stuff, you know. A couple of years back, I know a lot of people hate Trump, but listen, a couple of years back, he suggested that you should be able to file your taxes on a postcard. You know, just fill out what your income is. And if you're a business owner, fill out expenses and stuff like that. And you should be able to figure it out. Everybody should have like a flat tax that they pay. You know, it's according to your income, you know, so it's fairer that everybody pays a percentage of their income. If you're a business owner, you create jobs and stuff like that. You may have a little more flexibility, but not like crazy kinds of write-offs and stuff. But because some people avoid paying any property taxes. And he even told people that during the debate with, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, remember? He said, he's like, sure, I take advantage of all the tax breaks. You'd be stupid not to, you know? Oh, so you and all your rich buddies. Yeah. How do you think we become rich? We're smart. We take the deductions that you, the politicians, created for us. You know, if you don't like it, change the law. You know, and then when he goes in there and he tries to change the law, all of a sudden the sky is falling and he's trying to do bad things by making the tax, simplifying the tax thing, you know. Politicians are a strange bunch. So anyway, the assessed value is a value used for taxation purposes and does not reflect the actual property value. What is value? The word value means 100%, because anytime you're trying to figure out the value of something, you're trying to figure out all of it, right? You're not trying to figure out only a portion. So value means 100%. And that is called market value. So here's a formula to reverse engineer the assessed value to figure out what the market value of the property is. So to reverse engineer what the market value taxes are based on, you take the assessed value from the tax man that they give you on the tax bill that they send you, or they send you that postcard say, this is not a bill, this is what your assessed taxes are going to be, or were last year, and this is what they're going to be next year or this year. Well, you take that assessed value, you divide it by the tax ratio. Now, where do you get the tax ratio? You got to contact your municipality to find out. Or you could try to look online. It used to be on the Treasury's page, but now they keep moving this stuff around and burying it. I keep putting it on the slideshows, but I can't even find it right now, the tax ratio for all the municipalities in New Jersey. They've really buried it somewhere. So you take the assessed value, divide it by the tax ratio, and then times that by 100 to get the market value that's used by the taxman, the actual value that he thinks your home is worth. Okay, so in each, and keep in mind, your tax assessor is allowed a 15% margin of error. So when they assess your value of your property, they're allowed to be off by 15%. More than 15%, you would win a tax appeal. Okay, so the assessed value.
Let's assessed lower.
You wouldn't want to argue it.
No, I'm saying has it ever been assessed any lower than it's supposed to?
Yes, because look, no, I don't have it here. The old screenshots from the book, I'll have it on the next slide, a write-up of what it actually said in the older versions of this book. In reality, some properties are assessed at only 15% of their market value, whereas some are assessed as high as 150% of their market value. That's a wide range right there.
Yeah.
So assessed value is what the year's taxes are based on. And New Jersey has a set goal of full value assessment, almost impossible to attain, because full value assessment is your full market value. And in order to do that, your municipality would have to send an appraiser into your house every year. First of all, that's illegal. A municipality can only assess your property value, I think, as often as once every 18 months. So because of that, it's almost impossible to attain. Assessing real estate at 100% of its true market value. They'd have to send an appraiser in your house every year. How many people had ever had the city send an appraiser to your house? Ever? Nobody. Yeah. It's what the case usually is. You know, sometimes we may get one or two people in class that say, oh yeah, you know, but most of the time, nobody. Well, then how did your taxes keep going up? How do they assess the value of your property keep going up? Well, the city does send out appraisers to maybe a few homes in your neighborhood. And then they'll do a blanket assessment on all the other homes, assuming they're the same as that handful of homes they did an appraisal on. Okay, so hopefully they didn't do that handful of homes weren't homes that all had big modern improvements to them. Because if your home is not one that you did a lot of updates and improvements to, it's in a decent shape, but it's old, you know, but you didn't do a lot of improvements to it. And they only did an assessment based on those handful of homes that had the improvements to them. They're probably overestimating the value of your home and overtaxing you. But they're allowed a 15% margin of error to overtax you by. So periodically, municipalities must do a revaluation to bring everyone's assessment up to the current market value. I'm sorry. Periodically, municipalities must do a revaluation where an outside appraisal firm is hired to assess every rateable. A rateable is what we call a taxable property in the municipality to bring everyone's assessment up to the current market value. New Jersey Division of Taxation, Property Administration, has published an excellent brochure on how a property is valued for property tax purposes. Okay, I got a link to it right here. And so a taxable property is called a rateable, and a list of all the ratables in the municipality is called an assessment roll. Okay.
An assessment roll, I see, okay.
Yep, an assessment roll. So basically, if your city wants to know what their budget is based on the property taxes. I mean, your city makes money from a lot of other things. Permits and fines, tickets from police, from zoning and building and all kinds of other places. But their guaranteed income is coming from property taxes because we all got to pay taxes, our property taxes, right? So if they take that assessment roll and look at the property tax amount for all the taxable properties in the city and add up that right column, they know what their budget is for the year, not counting all the extra money from other stuff. Okay, just from all the ratables. Okay, I also have a link here to a tax appeal guide if you want to learn how to do a tax appeal. Some counties make it easier for their municipalities within the county. You'd have to go to your county tax assessor's page in order to find that. But I have a tax appeal guide here. You guys want it, I could share it with you. It's actually in the class links Word document as well as all those other links that I show you in these slideshows. But here I will copy it and share it with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that came up tiny. Sorry about that. And then we also have that understanding revaluation guide here. I could also give you that, share that with you too. All right. So we have an equalization factor because we have some richer counties and some poorer counties in the state. So an equalization factor is to make sure that one municipality is not paying less than or more than their fair share. So they come up with the state came up with some sort of formula to called the equalization factor to make sure that every municipality or county is paying their fair share, not too much, not too little. So the assessed value of each property in the area is multiplied by the equalization factor, and then the tax rate is then applied to the equalized assessment. I already gave you a formula that starts out with the assessed value. If a problem gives you an equalization factor, well, you have to do that part of the equation first. You have to add in the equalization factor times the assessed value, and then go from that point. Okay, so I'll show you the math formula on that. We'll ignore this one over here. They give you examples here. We'll actually do a math problem on it. Okay, so here's an example of the formula. You would, if they gave you an equalization factor, you take the equalization factor times the assessed value, and that gives you the equalized assessed value. And then you times that by the tax rate to figure out what your taxes are. If they don't give you an equalization factor, you just take assessed value times the tax rate equals the taxes. Don't worry, I'll give you a math problem on it. It's pretty simple. Plus, you're allowed to use calculators on exams, remember. Okay. So A tax rate can also be described as a mill. A mill is 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent. In any case, it's 3 decimal places. 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent is a mill. You could get a question that just asks you that on exam, or you could get a question that actually gives you a math problem with a mill. So, what's a mill? 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent. So now you got that definition down. I'll be able to give you a math problem on it in just a couple slides we got coming up here. Let's go all the way down here, and where I got the highlight. What is an assessment roll? It's a list of all the taxable properties in the municipality. So let's just say that your city has a budget of $10 million. And they need to raise $300,000 for a new garbage truck, I guess. You take how much money they want to raise, divide it by the budget there, and that gives them a new mill rates that they would need to add to the current tax rate to generate enough money to cover the cost that they need to collect. So 0.03 or 3% in this example. So here we go, page 139. A mill is 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent, 0.3 decimal points, 0.001. And this could be expressed as 30 mills is equal to $1 of assessed value, or $3 per $100 of assessed value, not market value, but assessed value, because taxes are based on assessed value, or $30 per $1,000 of assessed value. Now, New Jersey expresses their taxes per $100 of value. But your questions on exam, you got to just read the question, see what it says. If it says to calculate based on per $1,000 of assessed value or per $100 of assessed value, you would calculate it accordingly. I know it doesn't make sense yet, but it will in a second when I give you a math problem. So you guys just get this down there. A mill is 1/1000th of a dollar or a tenth of a cent. So here's my slide that explains a previous slide, but also adds in wording that was removed from this version of the book. Remember where you were asking, did they ever, tax it low at a lower rate? Well, yeah, here's the exact wording that it used to be in the book. The property values have been assessed as low as 15% of their market value and as high as 150% of their market value. And the tax assessors allowed a 15% margin of error. Assessed value is a value used for tax purposes, not the actual it's not a reflection of the actual property value. To reverse engineer what the market value taxes are based on, take the assessed value, divide it by the tax ratio, and times it by 100. That's the formula. Now, even though New Jersey's goal is to assess all property taxes at full value assessment, 100% of their true market value, that's almost impossible to attain. And why is it almost impossible to attain? I already explained this.
Because you would have to have inspect every home.
They'd have to send out an appraiser to your house every year. Yeah. Appealing the tax, the assessed value. Okay, when you do a tax appeal, you could only appeal the assessed value to the improvement, not to the land. Why? Because as a general rule, land does not depreciate, right?
Yeah.
And a rateable is a taxable property, and an assessment roll is a list of all the ratables. You see how I try to pack in as much information on this one slide as I can to make good notes for you.
Appreciate it.
And then here I put the how to file a tax appeal guide, the tax appeal guide, and then understanding valuations. I put all those on this one slide as well. And the equalization factor, if they give you that on a math problem, you'd have to calculate that first by taking the equalization factor, timesing it by the assessed value, and then timesing it by the tax rate to figure out the taxes. And a mil is 1/1000th of a dollar or 1/10 of a cent, 3 decimal places when calculating the math. Tax bills are billed quarterly. That's once every 3 months. Property owners get their property tax bill that they need to pay. You don't have to pay. Taxes become a lien on your property as of January 1st of the year. But you don't have to pay your taxes at the beginning of the year in full. You're billed quarterly. So you pay every 3 months. If at the end of the year, December 31st, you don't have your taxes paid in full, and then 6 months beyond that go by, you still didn't pay your taxes. Your tax collector is required to hold a tax auction. They're required to schedule a tax auction and then have a tax auction. I'm going to show you guys how tax auctions work. This is the exciting part about this chapter. I'm going to show you how you can make a lot of money without needing a lot of money. Tax auctions work differently in different states, though. New Jersey is a state that it works beneficial for the investor. Okay. Jonathan, were you talking about going to foreclosure auctions before?
No.
Was that you, Kevin? I thought one of you guys were talking about foreclosure auctions at some point in this class. And when you go to a foreclosure auction to purchase a property, you need to have all the money that you bid to buy that property. You get the property right then and there. Well, you don't get the property right then and there. You got to wait 10 days until they give you the deed to the property. The deed is delivered, and then you need to pay the balance of the money that you bid on at auction. Okay, but you're bidding on the property. You got to pay for the property. In tax auctions, the tax collector is just trying to collect the unpaid taxes. So when you go to a tax auction, you need far less money than you would to go to a foreclosure auction. Now, what are you getting at a tax auction? You're getting to pay the outstanding taxes that somebody didn't pay on their property. That's what you're getting. So what are you bidding on if you have to pay that? Yeah, taxes are liens on the property, and two things are, and taxes jump up to the head of the lien repayment order. Even in the event of foreclosure, taxes got to be paid first. So if you're going to a tax auction, what are you bidding on if you have to pay the full outstanding amount of taxes?
The home.
As the bidder.
You're bidding on the taxes, and once that's paid off, you own the home.
Wait, what do you mean you're bidding on the taxes? If you go to a tax auction, you have to pay the full outstanding amount. Like if the homeowner didn't pay $10,000 in taxes, you go to a tax auction, you have to have $10,000 to pay that full $10,000 that is outstanding in taxes. So then what is it that you're bidding on if it's not the amount that you're paying?
Did you say betting on or bidding on?
Bidding.
The home.
Well, what do you mean the home? You're only bidding.
You're bidding on the rights to purchase the home.
I would say the lien on the house.
No.
You're bidding. You're bidding on. Okay, so
I have a perspective. Let me see if I'm right or wrong. Tell me.
Sure.
What I was going to say is that you're bidding, or I was thinking betting on the house going to foreclosure. And when it does, you get paid first, or if they sell it, or whatever they do, something's got to happen with it, and you'll be the first to get paid.
All right, I'm going to open your eyes to something that is scary, ridiculous, and you're going to be wondering why more people aren't doing it.
Tell us.
Okay.
You're buying a home for just the tax price, right?
Well, you have to pay the outstanding amount of taxes. When you go to a tax auction, you're not bidding on how much you're paying in taxes. You have to have that full amount that was outstanding that the homeowner did not pay in their property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going to a tax auction, what exactly are you bidding on? You're bidding on the interest rate you're going to charge the homeowner to pay you the money back.
Oh.
Now, the homeowner has 2 years to pay you back. So you got to be prepared that if you win that auction, to have your money tied up for up to 2 years.
Okay. So
Now,
the homeowner is there at the auction?
Probably not. They can't bid on the auction. They have no say in the auction. So no, they
So the
probably
auctioneer chooses who wins based on the tax rate that we're willing to charge.
Correct. Now, the bidding starts at 18% and bids down. Whoever bids the lowest on the interest rate that they're going to charge the homeowner to pay them back will win that auction. Because your municipality is not trying to make it harder for a homeowner to keep their home. They just want the tax money. So they want an investor to come in, pay the taxes, and charge them the lowest interest rate possible. But it starts at 18%. So if you're the only bidder that says, I want to pay this person's $10,000 of unpaid taxes, you win the auction. So now you have to pay $10,000 and you get it at 18% interest rate. That homeowner has to pay you back that $10,000 plus 18% interest within 2 years. And if they don't, you get to foreclose on them just as if you're the municipality due to non-payment of taxes. And who comes first in the tax lien repayment order? Taxes. So even if there's a first mortgage of $500,000 on the property still that's still outstanding, you completely wipe out all those liens and you get that property free and clear for the $10,000.
Wait a minute. Say that whole last sentence. Yeah, say the whole last sentence. So
Darren's ready to invest.
Why aren't more people doing it?
I heard what you said. Okay, so you get to choose the interest rate. If you're the only one, okay, fine. Let's say it's 18%. Let's say it's whatever percent, 15. So they owe you whatever amount you paid plus your 15%. They have to pay it within 2 years. If they don't, then you can foreclose.
As if you were the municipality yourself foreclosing because they didn't pay the taxes for the last 2 years.
Okay. And because it's taxes, you get first. You
jump up to the head of the lien repayment order. So but the thing is, when it comes to taxes are the only thing that need to be paid. So if there's anything other liens on the property, they get completely wiped out. If you foreclose due to non-payment of taxes, all other liens get wiped out. You get that property free and clear just in what you paid in taxes.
That's what I thought you said.
I did say it. Huh.
She's gonna go on mute now and start.
Hold on. I didn't even get to giving you guys some resources that I'm giving you from this class here. I'm going to give you some resources. How do you find out about these tax auctions? Where are these tax auctions taking place? I mean, there used to be this guy at 3 a.m. in the morning that had these commercials on TV that I will sign you up for my classes, and I'll give you my secrets on how you could get involved in investing in tax lien certificates, and it's only going to cost you $2,000. But wait, you could sign up with a friend for the same price. So now you can split that cost and it'll only be $1,000 each for you. Is this a fantastic deal as well, or what? I'm going to show you how every municipality in the United States has these auctions, and you can get into properties as little as $300 that they don't pay on their full tax bill, and you can get their property for as little as $300. I'm thinking about raising the price of this class just from teaching this chapter here. Or this segment of this chapter. Okay, so let's continue on with this, and I'm going to give you some resources about those tax auctions. How about that?
All right.
Okay, so we got something to look forward to here. So equalization factors, the mill rate, the tax bills, and tax liens are specific liens. They only affect that one property it's being taxed. Now, there used to be a free tax record search system that I gave to you. I have this tiny URL I created. But now it was hosted by Monmouth County, and it gave you you could search the taxes for any county in New Jersey. any municipality in any county. However, we got a lot of radical people out there. They love protesting and they're social justice and all this, but all these people end up turning into radicals that supporting communism and socialism, which is basically a step up, or it's a different version of communism. And these people are getting really crazy. They're trying to shut down other people's voices. Look at them. They murdered Charlie Kirk for talking his, whatever it is that he wanted to talk about, So people have been getting really crazy. And if they have access where they could search public records and find out where somebody lives and get information about them. Right now we got people that they're going out there and they're fighting federal law enforcement. We have the ICE agents, the immigration agents out there, right? They're out there fighting these people and getting physical with them and confronting them. I mean, when in your lifetime have you ever seen somebody that was getting in the face of law enforcement and starting fights with them intentionally? I mean, that's a quick way to go to jail, So we got these crazy people that are out there doing nutty stuff. And one of them used the tax record system to find out where a judge lived because they didn't like the way she ruled on something. They went to her house to try to kill her, and instead they shot and killed her son who answered the door. And because of this, we have something called Daniel's Law that was passed. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. Daniel's Law is a law that was passed in recent years that with all these radical nut jobs out there, that basically allows anybody who is in law enforcement or the legal field, the judges, attorneys, law enforcement, police officers, etc., they could have their information removed from public databases like tax record systems. So it's not as easy to try to track them down and do harm to them. So that creates a little problem for anybody who's in the real estate field and you're trying to look up tax records and get information on a property. So we used to have this one database where we could search all counties, but now that was run by Monmouth County. And Monmouth County doesn't want to be responsible if one of the other 21 counties did not filter out the law enforcement that requested that their information be removed from their database. So now they're separated. You got to go to each county and try to find their tax record system and search at each county. At least until you get your real estate license. Once you get your real estate license, you get privileged access to tools that are part of the MLS, where you could search multiple different tax record systems all at once to get all the tax information. Right now, you'd have to go to the county tax board because you're not licensed yet. You're not paying for access to this information yet. So you could just go to the tax board, which has a list of all 21 counties' tax websites, and then you could search on their websites and then do a search from there. So here, I'm going to show you what this first one is. This is only for you as long as you're not licensed to get access to it. You see, you click on that link and it takes you here. Now, this used to be a drop-down, and in this drop-down, you could see all 21 counties, but no more. Now you could just search Monmouth County through there and all the municipalities in Monmouth County. You could put in somebody's name or their address or their lot and block number and find out the information about their properties. But as you could see here, Daniel's Law, they got a Daniel's Law statement here that information is basically getting filtered out of here. So each county wants to only be responsible for their own county. So therefore, you got to go to each county now. And so we go to that New Jersey tax boards. You even got the link right there. You see this? This is the county tax boards, a listing of all the administrators and their phone numbers and email addresses and their websites for each of the 21 counties you could go to now. Like if I'm in Union County, I could click on Union. And here I could go to the assessment record search. They make it right easy. They put it right there at the top. So I could do a search from right there at the top. And you see, look at this. It looks like the other website, doesn't it? It looks exactly the same, except if you see it says Union there only now, and all list of all 21 of all the municipalities in Union County. And then you could search anybody's name or lot and block or their address as it is in the tax records, and you can pull up their tax data. Okay. All right. Let's go back here. And now we also have, there's that link to the county tax books. Okay, so let me share with you that information. So at least I'll give you some kind of access to tax searches right now. Once you become members of the MLS, guys, you'll have full access to this and even more data than they show here for tax record systems. So let's look up some math problems, shall we? You guys got calculators handy? But I'll show you here in these examples. So remember, the tax assessor is allowed a 15% margin of error. And as a general rule, land does not depreciate. So we could only appeal the improvement value, not the land value. But if you get a question like this on exam, if a property's assessed value is $133,000 and has a mill rate of $23.01 per $1,000 of value, how much would the property taxes be for this property? Well, you take the assessed value times the tax rate to get the property taxes. In this case, they tell you that is $23.01 per $1,000. If it's assessed at $133,000, how many thousands are there in $133,000? It's 133. 133 times $23.01, the mill rate, is $3,060.33. It's that simple. Because it tells you this is the tax per $1,000 of value, and it's 133,000. So how many thousands are there in 133,000? 133. All right, let's get into a little more difficult stuff. Let's see. Calculating the tax ratio. Tax rates are used to figure out the property taxes that you pay. Tax ratios are used to reverse engineer that assessed value that the tax assessor placed on your property to figure out what the actual market value is. So the formula is you take the assessed value, divide it by the tax ratio, and times it by 100 to get the market value that the tax assessor is estimating is the value of your home. In this example, if they use an assessed value of $133,000 and the ratio that they listed in the tax records, if it's listed in the tax records, was 40.37, which it was in this example from a neighbor I got a couple of years ago, the value then is $3,294.52. Then you times it by 100. And then the market value that they estimated was $329,452. That's the formula. And if they gave you what do you call it? What's that other value? The equalization factor. If they gave you an equalization factor, you'd have to figure that in first.
And where did the 40.37?
I got that from tax records. It was actually in the tax records. So that's how I found out the tax ratio. Otherwise, you may have to contact your municipality's tax assessor and find out what the tax ratio is for your town.
Okay.
Okay. Here's a math problem you guys can figure out on your own. It's actually question number 5 at the end of this book. So a house is valued at $120,000 and is assessed for 80% of its value. The tax rate is $26.34 per $1,000. How much is the property tax bill? I'll let you guys try to figure that out for a moment while I run to the John real quick, okay? So let me pause the recording. Let's repeat that from the top so that we get it on the recording here for you. So when we're calculating taxes, taxes are based on the assessed value of a property, not the market value. Here they tell you the market value is $120,000 and is assessed for 80% of its value. So 120,000 times 80% or 0.80 is $96,000, right?
Right.
And we're trying to figure out how much the property tax bill is. So it's based on the assessed value. So 96,000, then they give you the tax rate is $26.34 per $1,000. So how many thousands are there in 96,000?
96.
So 96 then times the tax rate of 26.34.
See, I did this all wrong. So 96 times 26.34 gives you 2,528.64. But I got the same answer doing it some different.
How'd you do it?
So I did the 96,000 times 26.34 divided by 1,000, and I got 2,528.64.
Well, it's because it's per $1,000 of value, so it still comes out to the same way.
Okay.
Math. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say in math. So yeah, I just walked it through this way. 120 times 80, that's 80%. That's 96,000. There's 96. How many thousands are there in 96,000? 96 times $26.34. You didn't divide the 96,000 by 1,000. You just did 96,000 by 26.34.
No, I didn't do 96 at all. I just did. Sorry, I did. I apologize. I did 96 times $26.34 and then divided that by 1,000.
So you didn't do anything with the 96,000 here.
Well,
you just jumped over to 26.34.
No,
you did.
I multiplied the 96 times the 26.34 and then divided it by 1,000.
I'm wondering if that's a way of a formula that you could actually figure that out regularly, or if that was just dumb luck that you got it. I don't know. I don't know.
I literally told him, I said, I am not a math guy at all, so I could be totally wrong.
Well, it worked out for you that time. But this is the way you should do it, though. You know,
better lucky than good sometimes, right?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a math guy either, but I know the formulas. I stick to the formula that I know that works. And I know in math, I've had math geniuses in these classes before that do this stuff in their head, and they know like 12 different ways to come up with the same answer. That ain't me.
Yeah.
I know the dumb, easy way to do it that walks you through step by step. It's probably a longer route, but nonetheless, it gets you there. You know, slow and steady, says the turtle, right? Okay. So the answer here is B, 25.28.64. All right. So this is actually question 5 in the chapter 8 review questions at the end of the chapter too. All right. So here's another problem for you from an older version of the book. It's not, I don't think it's in this book version at the end of the chapter, but here. What is the annual real estate tax on a property that's valued at $135,000 and assessed for tax purposes at $47,250 with an equalization factor of 125% when the tax rate is $2.50 per $100 of value? You going like that with your heads right now? What did he just say? I got to read this over 10 times. Okay. Well, Read the question and tell me, what is it trying to figure out? What does it want to know from your life? The first step is to ask a question about the question so you understand what the hell it wants from you.
Yeah, the annual real estate tax on this property. That's what they want to know. So the annual real estate tax, the property, so we know the assessed value is what we're basing that on.
Okay, so do you need the 135,000 figure for anything?
No.
No. So 47,250 is the assessed value. And that's what taxes are based on, right? But remember, I told you when they give you an equalization factor, you have to factor that in first. So take 47,250 and times that by 125% or 1.25. If you're putting in 125%, make sure you hit the percent button. Or you could just convert it to a whole number, go 2 decimal points over, cross out the percent sign, go 2 decimal points over, and it's 1.25. And that gives you how much?
59,062.50.
So now that's the new equalized assessed value that you need to base your taxes on. So this is an under-taxed area. They want to raise the taxes on you in this area, so you pay your fair share. Okay. And now if the tax rate is $2.50 per $100 of value, you take that 59,000 and change that you just said, and you divide it by 100.
590 dollars.
And then you times that by the tax rate.
Is that 2.5?
Yep. Yeah. That's your mill rate.
So $1,476.5625 and
something like that.
Yeah.
I have.
Cool. So now I worked it out here. 47,250, that's the assessed value. Equalization factor is 125%. So you times it by that to get the equalized value of $59,062.50. Divided by 100 because it's per $100 of value. That gives you $5.90.63. Now you times it by the mill rate, the mill amount of $2.50. To get the taxes of $1,476.56. The key to this stuff is don't get lost in the math. You see it's multiple steps. Don't get lost. See what I did is I wrote next to each number what that number is, so I don't get lost in the math there. Okay, you guys want to snap a picture or should I just change the slide?
Got it.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. So here the real estate values is viewed by the owner and the tax man around tax time. The owner looks down at their house. Oh, my house ain't that much. It ain't that big. And the tax man's like, yes, it is. That completely switches when the owner's looking to sell their house, right? Then the owner looks at their house like this. All right. So as I told you, property taxes become a lien on your property as of January 1. But taxes are due starting on February 1, and additional payments may be made quarterly on the 1st of May, August, and November. When taxes are unpaid for 6 months after the end of the year, after December 31st, the taxing body can resort to a tax foreclosure sale to be able to collect the money that they need to pay their bills to fund the operation of government. So the local tax collector is required to hold that tax sale. Advance notices of the sale have to be posted in 5 places in the municipality, and then advertised in the local newspaper for 4 weeks. Owners of the property should receive a notice of the forthcoming sale by mail, and if they do not, the sale is still valid because you know you owe the taxes. You've been getting tax bills regularly. So, what do you get at a tax auction? Well, the purchaser at a tax sale, here we should highlight this. The purchaser at a tax sale receives a tax sale certificate, but is not entitled to occupy or use the property and does not receive title. You are not the owner just simply because you won that auction. You're just a person who got to pay that person's taxes at this point. So they give you a certificate that says you paid their taxes this amount and you got it at this interest rate that the homeowner has to pay you back within 2 years by. Now, if the municipality, for whatever reason, purchases the certificate, the delinquent homeowner has 6 months to repay that money due to redeem their property. And if the certificate is bought by a private party like you or I that go to these auctions, the redemption period is 2 years. The homeowner has 2 years to pay back all that money. Now, the homeowner trying to regain the property must pay reasonable legal cost and interest on the overdue taxes. After the redemption period is passed without the owners redeeming the property, the holder of that certificate from the auction may obtain clear title by the legal process of foreclosure anytime within 20 years. I wouldn't wait 20 years though, because who's paying next year's taxes?
I was going to ask you that. So I guess two scenarios, right? Number one is if I pay off your taxes, right? The minute I do that, is there automatically a lien on the house with the taxes that you owe me?
Well, there's already a lien by the municipality
because of the municipality. So that lien gets transferred over now into your name. Okay.
Yeah. Now,
and then
look, the homeowner does not. Hold on. The homeowner doesn't pay you directly. They pay the municipality the tax bill,
and then
they give it back to you.
Okay. And then part two is, right, so let's just say they didn't pay the taxes again for the next 2 years.
Well, then the municipality will come to you and they'll say, hey, the homeowner didn't pay the taxes this year. You want to pay them you want to pay them, and then you'll get it at 18% without having to go to auction and bid. Or we could allow it. We'll set up another auction and schedule another auction that'll come up in another couple of months from now. And then someone else will bid and they'll win a tax lien certificate and they'll be 2 years behind you. Well, probably more than 2 years at that point. Because if they don't pay the next year's taxes, the tax auction doesn't get scheduled until 6 months after the end of the year. And then the auction comes up, and at that point, it's probably almost closer to 2 years, right, behind.
So now, if you're trying to, within that 2 years, you're like, hey, by my right, I can try and get a clear title.
You could foreclose on the property, sell it, and pay off whatever tax liens are on it, and walk away with your profit.
So you would still have to pay their taxes anyway.
Taxes always need to be paid.
So that's probably why a lot of people don't do it. Because if they didn't do it, if they didn't pay these taxes this 2 years, that's going to make them pay again this 2 years. And
okay, it's been a couple of years since I dealt with a client who actually received the property through tax auction. The last one I did was quite a while ago, and it was in Hillside on Route 22. There was a 4-family house. It was actually in pretty good shape too. And it was pretty big, 3-bedroom units, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, each one, separate utilities, everything. The house was in good shape. I don't know why the owner wasn't paying the taxes on it. He had tenants that were paying their rent. I don't know. I think he was using the money to help fund his business, which was in trouble, And so he didn't pay his taxes on the property. which were only $7,500 a year, by the way, which that's dirt cheap for a 4-family house. You know, let's just say he didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. That's $15,000. He didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. The investor went in there, paid the $15,000 in taxes. Let's just say that he also overpaid an attorney $5,000 to do the foreclosure for him. And I charged him 6% commission to sell the house, to find a buyer, because he listed it with me. And I sold that property at the time for $490,000. So let's just take a look at this for a second. Let me pull up my calculator here on my cell phone. $490,000, right? Subtract 6% commission. That's
$29,400.
He was left with $460,600. Let's subtract the $15,000 that he paid in taxes. And let's subtract $5,000 that he paid an attorney to do a foreclosure. He still walked away with $440,600 in profit. Is the juice worth the squeeze?
I think Kevin agrees.
Hells yeah, it is.
I would definitely squeeze in there.
Hells yeah. 440, 2 years having 15,000, let's just say $20,000 out of your pocket tied up for 2 years for $440,000. Think I'm going to do this for a living, right?
Yep.
You know, I've never done this once yet myself. I keep teaching it to everybody. And every time that these auctions keep coming up in my town that I mean to invest in, I'm always teaching classes and I can never get away to go put down the deposit money because you got to bring the deposit money, certified funds to the tax assessor in your municipality before you could bid on the auctions. And I never get around to doing it. It just passed again in my town. I keep kicking myself in the ass. I really want to do this, you know. Because the money is there. I've seen people make the money. I know it's possible to make the money. Now, in some states, they have a different type of tax liens work in a different way. I'm actually going to put a video together about it and post it online. Another reason to go like our Facebook page. Like us, love us. And I'll get into the details about how they work in other states and how they work in New Jersey as well. New Jersey, it's actually easier. There's less liability of other expenses and worrying about other liens or anything like that on there because you get the free and clear. It wipes out, even if there's an outstanding first mortgage lien on the property, it wipes it out. This is why most banks, most lenders want homeowners when they're going and getting the loan to include their property taxes and homeowners insurance in their monthly mortgage payment. Because this way, if they're not paying the mortgage, they know the taxes and insurance aren't being paid either. And now it's up to the bank to cover those expenses. But still, they're humans, and sometimes they miss stuff. And I've seen properties get foreclosed on that were where the taxes and insurance were included in the mortgage payment, and the bank still let the property go to foreclosure. I guess they were waiting for last minute to swoop in and pay off those debts and be done with it, you know. But sometimes they screw up too. Their asset managers mess up, and if that's the case, they lose the property. Now, if the municipality forecloses on a tax sale certificate, it's through a judicial process, a judicial proceeding called an in rem proceeding. You see, I got that highlighted down here at the bottom, in rem. It's a special court proceeding reserved only for municipalities to foreclose due to non-payment of taxes. There's another little interesting factoid down here. If you get foreclosed on due to not paying your property taxes, it doesn't affect your credit score. It's not reported by municipalities. Whereas if you get foreclosed on for non-payment of your mortgage loan, it destroys your credit score. So here, I got that all wrapped up, all in one explanation right here. Taxes that go unpaid for more than 6 months after the end of the year. So this is basically your rules here. I'm giving you guys a complete rundown of everything again to a recap. For the tax auction, taxes go unpaid for more than 6 months after the end of the year. Tax collectors required to schedule a tax sale called the tax auction. It must be posted in at least 5 places within the municipalities and advertised in the local newspaper for 4 weeks. The winner at the auction gets to pay the owner's full outstanding taxes. Yay! And the auction bidder must have all the money and is only bidding on the interest rate that the property owner must pay them back. The bidder, if unchallenged, gets the certificate at 18%. But any further bidding against another investor would drive that interest rate down even further. It could even get to the point that you go down to 0, because if you really think that that property owner is not going to be able to pay it back, you who cares if you get any money on the interest? I'm planning on getting the property. You could bid down to 0 and even start paying a premium. And then if you eventually get the property, whatever you paid in the premium, you do not get back. If you paid a premium and you didn't win the auction, well, you get that premium funds back. Okay, now the winner then gets a tax lien certificate that shows the date, the amount, and interest rate the owner needs to pay that investor bidder back by, or lose their property. The bidder is not entitled to occupy or use the property. You do not get title from the auction. You have to wait 2 years for that owner to pay you back. And if they don't, then you go through foreclosure to get the ownership of the property. So if you win a tax auction, don't go walking on the property or looking through the windows or anything. They're going to call the cops. You're going to get arrested, okay, for being a peeping Tom. The owner has a right of redemption to redeem their property, to pay you back, plus all those fees, and redeem the property. They got 2 years to do it. By the way, how much are your savings accounts paying you these days in your bank account? 0.1% or something like that, if you're lucky?
Not 18%.
Not 18% for sure, or anywhere near it. So even if you bid down to 4%, you're still getting more than what your banks are paying you. So it's still a win, even if they swoop in and they pay you back. Now, the owner has to repay all the outstanding taxes, plus the interest, plus reasonable filing fees and legal costs that you may have incurred if you did anything like that. The investor can then foreclose anytime within 20 years to get the property free and clear of all other liens. Taxes are first in the lien repayment order, and they wipe out all other liens, including mortgage loans. So even if there was an outstanding mortgage loan on the property for several $100,000, that gets wiped out. An in rem is the court proceeding reserved only for municipalities to foreclose due to non-payment of taxes. And here's a resource I'm going to give you, an additional resource, a top secret resource that about half the municipalities in New Jersey use. What do we have? 565 or 45?
64, you said? 564?
564.
Something like that. Yeah, that's how many municipalities we have here in New Jersey. So this website, realauction.com, they're actually a software maker. They make auction software and management software for taxes and all kinds of other stuff. So if you actually go to their website, we click on this link, we're going to go to their website. It takes us to realauction.com. I clicked on it. It took us to realauction.com/clients. But here, let's just go to the homepage, realauction.com. Then you click on clients. And then it shows you the different software products that they have. Let's click on the one for tax liens, not foreclosure, but tax liens. And let's filter out this list to only those in New Jersey. We won't even type in a municipal name here, municipality name. We'll just look at them all. There's 273 municipalities in New Jersey that use this software from this company to run their tax auction sites. Now look at that. Aberdeen got one opening up. Oh, they already did that. 9/30/2025. So let's take a look. What's going on there? And so this place also runs these websites. They all kind of look the same kind of a design to them, basically. You start here by register. You start here. It gives you the rules, frequently asked questions. Then you register, and then you can preview the items they have coming up in their tax auctions. And then you go here to see the bidding results. But you have to register, and then if you know the properties you want to bid on, you have to put a percentage of that money on certified funds at the tax collector's office before you could actually bid. So let's click and take a look at what happened at their auction in Aberdeen. You see how some of them are marked unavailable? That means that people swooped in the last minute and paid their taxes. I mean, look at these. Some of these are like less than $1,000, $758. This person didn't pay their taxes. It was going to tax auction. Now, you see, here's the code. Look at the charge type. SWST. S is for sanitation or sewer. Yeah, yes, it's sewer. What waste and sewer charge on this one? Let me see, because we could take a look at this one. Here's an active one for $1,500. This person didn't pay it. So let's click on it, and we could see their total charge breakdown for water and sewage cost, and then just the auction cost. So water and sewer. They got a $1,500 bill. Imagine losing your house because you didn't pay the water and sewer charge. Now, this could only happen if it's municipal water and municipal sewage charge. If you're getting your bill from, New Jersey American Water, they can't foreclose on you due to non-payment of your water bill. They just shut off your services. But if it's if you get your water bill and your sewage is in your municipality is managed by your municipality, and it says you're paying to the municipality's water sewage authority, that goes to auction, just like non-payment of taxes. And you could lose your property for not paying your water or sewer bill if it's municipal water and sewer charges. So let's take a look at the certificate history on this property. There is no certificate history. It looks like nobody bought one. And the bid history, nobody bid on it. Why not? It's only $1,500 on Atlantic Ave in Aberdeen. Let's take a look at the map. Let's take a look at where it is. Can we zoom in on this a little bit? Looks like a decent sized house in Aberdeen. See what's near it. Let's zoom out. 2 blocks from Lake Matawan. You guys have got a water on that side too. It looks like a decent sized house here. I'm not sure if it's that one or this one. You can put it in Google Maps and look up the address now and see what it looks like, which one it is. And but either way, doesn't matter.
Auctions.com?
It is realauction.com. Realauction.com. Okay, so now take a look here. We could go look at some of these other counties. Let's see where there's an auction coming up.
Before you go on, Victor, let's say we wanted to bid on it. And so what do we do now? We need to register, and you said there had to be did you say if there has to be certified funds with
Yes. So here, let me close this out and we could just back up. Here we're at the Aberdeen one. You look at the bidding rules and how it works. And they got training and general information here so you can see how it works in their town. Okay. You should read up all on their town before you bid on it. Okay. So they show you here the township. The tax sale will be held on the internet at 10/30/2025 at 8:30 a.m. That's when it starts. Preliminary bidding. The deposit must be completed by 10/30/2025. So you got to put the deposit down. You'll be required to post a 10% deposit of the total amount of intended winnings, including premium bids. Minimum deposit $1,000 required by ACH transfer only. Deposits must be completed by a certain date and time. Bids start at 18% and go down to 0% in interest increments of 1%. Once the bid reaches 0%, the bidder can begin to bid up a premium in whole dollar amounts of $100 increments. No interest accrues on the premium to the benefit. So you got to read through this. This shows you all the details of how it works in their particular town. And here they break it down, the basic rules for when they do the auction, customer support, and all that.
Cool.
And look, if you see a property here that went to auction and nobody bid on it, you could still go there and contact them and say, I want to pay the taxes on it. Can I do that? Or do I got to wait till the next auction rolls around? And they'll probably let you bid on it after an auction if nobody bid on it.
Cool.
Pretty cool, huh? Giving you resources too. I'm not just telling you about it. I'm also giving you resources.
Cool.
So here's some other ones. Let's see if there's any that are coming up. What are we? Today's date's 11/17. You got a lot of them in 11/11, 11/14. Here's 11/28 in Caldwell in Essex County. But you got to go through it. There's a couple of pages here, 6 pages of municipalities with auctions. East Brunswick in Middlesex County. Fort Lee. Freehold, 11/12. They just had theirs. Let's take a look at Freehold. What's going on there? Take a look at let's preview their auctions. It looks like a lot of it is just sewage. Is it sewage or sanitation? Let's take a look. Yeah, sewer cost. And TW, what is that? That's probably trash and waste, or taxes and waste. Let's see, total charges, property taxes, and then water. So they didn't pay $12,400, okay, including interest. So $10,000 in taxes plus another $1,900, and then the water, and then the cost of the sale. So $13,000 in total. This person is behind. Think they're going to get caught up and save their home in Freehold, right by the lake. Looks like their house may back to the lake and maybe even have a dock. I don't know.
Probably so.
Oh no, here's one it's just off of it. It's real close. But look at that. Looks like a nice area. I don't know. They may have a pool under there. I'll have to take it to Google Streets to get a lower look. Looks like all these homes in this area are a little bit newer with pools. So you'll need $13,053.37 tied up for up to 2 years. If you got that kind of money, you could bid on it, put it up for 2 years, and just wait. It'll either pay you back more than what your bank accounts, savings accounts are paying you, or you get to foreclose and get the property free and clear. And listen, even if the house burns down, they lit it on fire on their way out, they burn it down and you didn't insure it. How much does it cost to buy a lot to build a house on these days? Even if there was no house on it, a couple $100,000, still a win. All right, spend way too much time on that, showing you guys resources on how to get rich. All right, ways to invest your money and make some killer investments. The only time I would suggest to use caution or probably not invest is if it's raw land. If it's raw land without any structures or buildings on it, be careful. My ex-wife bought a property at these auctions that was raw land. She got 3 acres at a switched light intersection in Hamilton Township on the way to Atlantic City. And I was like, well, what are you going to do with it? And she's like, well, you can do a lot with it. It's 3 acres. And I was like, can you? She's like, it's 3 acres. Can you? Can you do something? So I called up the municipality and I found out, can you build on that? And they're like, well, actually, it's 10-acre zone. So you need to own 10 acres of land in order to do any construction. So she'd have to buy 7 more acres of land to do anything. So she was unable to do anything. So I was like, you know what? Cough it up to a learning lesson. Try to sell the property. If you can't sell it, cough it up to a learning lesson. Don't pay the taxes. Let them have another tax foreclosure. It's not going to affect your credit, and let some other sucker get the property. And then you lost your $600 or whatever it is that you got it for at auction, you know, and eventually that's what ended up happening. So don't buy the raw land, you know. All right, income tax issues for home sellers. Refer queries to accountants or their attorneys. Both the federal and state governments have exclusions from capital gains taxes from the profit of the sale of your primary residence if you owned and occupied the property for 2 out of the last 5 years. Single filers are entitled to up to a $250,000 exclusion on their income taxes from the profit of the sale. And married couples filing jointly can get a capital gains tax exclusion of up to $500,000. Now, if you owned and if you lived in the house for less than 2 years before you sell it, because you may have been forced to sell due to a hardship, the IRS could still give you a capital gains tax exclusion if it's due to one of these hardships: job loss or transfer. You were forced to sell early because of your job, health reasons, death, divorce, or multiple births. All these situations are considered hardships, and they would still allow you that capital gains tax exclusion. But this question is always on exams. School exam, state exam, you'll get it on exams, guaranteed. You need to know what are the capital gains tax, who qualifies for, and what are the capital gains tax exclusions for the primary residence. And by the way, you could reuse this every 2 years. So if you buy a house, you live in it for 2 out of the last 5 years before you sell it, and you get up to $250,000 profit on the sale, you pay 0 state or federal income tax. If you're a married couple filing taxes jointly and you could get up to a $500,000 profit, you pay 0 state or federal income tax up to $500,000 profit on the sale. You know how usually if you sell an investment property for a profit, you got to pay income tax on that profit? Well, this is an exclusion from state and federal income taxes. You don't pay any income tax on the profit of the sale if you lived in that house for 2 out of the last 5 years. So let's just say you lived in it for 2 years. Now you move out, you bought another investment property, and you move into that one. And then you sell the previous one while you're living in the next one and fixing up the next one. You live in that one for at least 2 years, and then you sell it. You pay 0 income taxes on that one. See, I guess if you have no kids, it's a little bit easier to move more often and live in a house that you're fixing up. Otherwise, with the family, it could be a little bit, problematic to be moving like that all the time. But you can, and you can reuse it as often as you like, every 2 years. Okay, so you guys got those highlights?
Mm-hmm.
And first-time home buyers they can make penalty-free withdrawals from their retirement plans if they use the money for a down payment on their first home. Up to $10,000 they can withdraw from their retirement plan if they use it as a down payment to purchase their first home. But it needs to be paid back to their retirement plan with interest. And you're basically paying yourself back because that's your retirement plan, So you're basically only paying yourself back. But just keep in mind, don't take money out of your retirement plan on your own. Make sure you speak with a financial person who knows how to do it, because you got to file proper paperwork to do this. Because if you just take money out of your retirement plan, before they give you the money, they're going to take out all the taxes and penalties for the early withdrawal of that money. And it is a lot. They kill you in early withdrawal fees and taxes. So if you remove it before you're eligible to take out your retirement funds. So make sure you have your financial person do it for you so that you don't get in trouble, that they do it the right way by filing the right paperwork to use that money. But listen, this is just a last case resort. This is just another way for us to know where a buyer, if they really need the money, they could take it out of their retirement plan. But we could also negotiate with sellers to pay the buyer's closing costs or deposits or what have you. Okay, so this is just another resource, another tool under our belts of how we could advise our clients to help them buy a home. Okay, well, I'm going to be teaching you about different types of mortgages. New Jersey has the New Jersey Housing Mortgage and Finance Agency also has a program that if you get a loan through them, they'll give you one loan to buy the house and another for the down payment and closing costs. And if you live in that house for at least 5 years, you don't have to pay it back. Okay. And that's for first-time home buyers. However, don't fret if you've ever owned a home in your house, in your life. What is considered a first-time home buyer? You didn't own a home in the last 3 years, I think it was. Something like that. 3 or 5 years, something like that. Then you could be considered a first-time home buyer again. Okay, so you guys highlighted that as well on page 140?
Yep.
All right, and that concludes this chapter. So let's do the key terms to review for chapter 8. Tax set according to value, page 141. Tax that's set according to the value.
Assessed value.
One is A, that is the ad valorem tax.
That's what I meant.
Estimate based on probable sales price.
Estimate based
Full
on
value assessment?
Yes, 5 is B, full value assessment. A value used for taxation purposes.
Assessed
value.
Yes, 2 is C, the assessed value. Adjustment for assessment variations.
Equalization factor.
Yes, 4 is D. A list of all taxable properties in the municipality.
Assessment roll?
Yes, 3 is E. Time in which a foreclosed owner can regain the property.
Redemption period.
8 is F, the redemption period. Collection of overdue taxes through public auction of property.
Tax sale.
It's tax sale. 13 is G. A taxable property is called.
Wait. Sorry.
13 was
okay.
Yeah, 13 was G.
Got it.
Taxable property is called what?
Rateable.
A rateable, 7 is H. A reassessment of all the municipalities' ratables.
Reevaluation.
It's a revaluation, 9 is I. A tax only on property directly benefiting from an improvement.
Special assessment.
10 is J. 1/1000th of a dollar or 1/10 of a cent.
A mil.
A mil. 6 is K. Municipality's financial claim against real property.
Tax lien.
12 is L, a tax lien. And seizing of property for unpaid taxes.
Tax foreclosure.
11 is M. All right, and that concludes chapter 8.